Hi, social media. How are you doing? How's it going? I just stopped by to get some things off my chest, and I thought, since I'm alone, why not do it like this? Why not share it with you guys? So here goes. Oh, but before I do that, how was your week then? Any good news? Any bad news? If you're like me, you have both good news and bad news. And I'll start with the good news. I'll start by giving God thanks for life. I'm here, aren't I? I'm at the end of another week, and I'm thankful. He has provided for me. I have the basic necessities at least. And in terms of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I certainly have those things that are important, that are necessary for my survival. But in terms of the bad news, you might be wondering, so we shall come with now. And what's on my mind? We are still struggling with the Ukraine and Russia situation. And here we have Israel and Palestine going at it in the Gaza Strip. A strip that is densely populated with millions of people. And as such, between the two countries, we have had over 10,000 in deaths and injuries. No, I don't know about you, but that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. And it can be a little frightening because if I go back to Russia and Ukraine, as was mentioned earlier, many of us, we thought it would have been over by now. Many of us, within the first week or two, we were praying that, it would not get to the stage where it got. And then, as time passed, there seemed to be no end in sight, and we pretty much gave up. Still disappointed by that, still saddened by that. We are now faced with another war. We are now faced with lives being lost once again. Once again, we are watching children suffering, older adults suffering, and just people in general suffering. Friends, I don't know about you, but it is sad. It is sad. It is sad, especially when some of us are in the comfort of our homes. Especially when some of us are free to move around. Especially when we know where our family members are. Especially when we have no idea what those persons are going through. We're comfortable. Some of us, we are unconcerned. Some of us, we are concerned, but we ask ourselves the question, what can I do? What can I do? That's the question. What can I do? What can I do? Not much, perhaps. But what I do know is that I can pray. What I know is that I serve a God. And people will ask, and in fact, I saw a colleague of mine saying, all of this through the loving hand of God. And my response to him was, God gave us the ability, or God gives us the ability to choose. And they have chosen war. So what can I do? I can still pray to God. I can still ask Him to help us to make the right choices. I can ask Him to give us a desire to be better persons. I can try to be a better person so that when I'm faced with situations, I won't react in an unkind manner. I won't think of hurting others, but rather I will seek peaceful resolutions. There's a song which says, "Let there be peace on earth and let it begins with me." And I believe more and more we need to make that be our way of life. Because of course there are times when we're offended. There are times when, people do things to us that we do not like. And there are times when we have to hold on tightly so as not to retaliate. But friends, it will be worth it when we don't. They say hindsight is 2020. And a lot of times, after the dust settles, for those who made a conscious decision not to react or to act in a particular fashion, they're usually happy that they did not resort to anything that would have a negative outcome. And for those who do or did, they would usually reflect and wonder, why did I do that? If me did know, I am sorry. So what can I do? I can think before I think, and that was not a mistake. We like to say we must think before we speak, or we must think before we act. Many years ago, I learned that there was something called think before you think. So start thinking about it before you start thinking about it, if that makes sense. Because when you go that deep, by the time you really start thinking about it, you'd have made some headway. And then by the time you start thinking about it, you will act accordingly. Right? So think before you think, and then you think before you speak, and then you think before you act. Because too many of us are losing out by acting before we think. Too many of us are losing out, and I say us meaning the world. Too many of us are losing out because we do the act and then we sit back and we reflect on it. Friends, let us pray for Palestine. Let us pray for Israel. Let us pray for all those who are affected, and best believe that the world at large is going to be impacted by this. And if it doesn't stop, many more countries are going to become involved. Let us continue to pray for Ukraine. Let us continue to pray for Russia. And then there are countries, almost every country has its own internal situation dealing with. Whether it is crime and violence, whether it is poor governance, whether it is corruption, whatever it is. Everybody is going through something, and that's another thing. If we think about it like that, then we'll be a little more tolerant. Not saying we're to compromise our standards, not saying we're to turn a blind eye to things that are wrong, but just remember that everybody is going through something. And if we take that approach, then we'll be a little more patient, like I said, a little more tolerant, and we'll be willing to work with those with whom we can work. I admit that there are some persons who cannot be helped. They do not want to be helped. But I do believe that those are in the minority. Most times, people just need a word of encouragement, somebody to give them a minute or two of their times, somebody to be kind, a listening ear, etc., etc. Oftentimes, a smile, not laughing at the person, but a genuine smile helps. A good morning, a please, a thank you, also, those things go a long way. Can we resolve to try to be that person this week? Can we try to be more of a praying person this week? Can we be a little more empathetic this week? Friends, we can. We have it within us. We do it for some. Yes, we do it for our families and our friends. Let's do it for one more person. One more person who is outside of our circle. We can. And if each one reaches one, I guarantee you this world will be a better place. If you can't be good, be careful out there. Stay safe. God bless you. Bye-bye.